Sean and I had been first love for over 20 years. I thought he would love and protect me for a lifetime. Until one day my sister had someone put razor blades in my ballet shoes, causing severe cuts on my feet. When Sean asked me, "Can't you be more forgiving? After all, she is your sister," I realized his heart was elsewhere. When he got into a car accident and was dying, I smiled at him and said, "Go well." The day I noticed something was off with Sean, I had a high fever. In the pouring rain at midnight, I took a cab alone to the emergency room. While I was getting in I saw a message on my phone from Mavis with a photo of a candle-lit cake that said, "Always together." In the picture, a bony hand with a wedding ring on the ring finger was visible. It was the same unique design as the ring on my left hand that Sean had specially made for me. My hands felt numb, and I remembered that Sean had told me just last week that he was going to London to handle some contracts. When I tried to ask him about it, I found out that Mavis's message had disappeared. Maybe she deleted it, or perhaps she blocked me. Exhaustion forced me to close my eyes, and the next day someone put razor blades in my ballet shoes again, causing deep cuts. The doctor warned me not to engage in strenuous activities for the next 2 weeks to prevent infection. The team leader, standing beside me, worried that I wouldn't be able to participate in the upcoming Golden Cottonwood competition. I, the reigning champion from the last competition, had already signed up for this year's event scheduled in a month. Despite the recent events, I was determined to dance. As my body still felt weak from the fever, I asked if the surveillance was back on, and who was responsible for the incidents. The team leader hadn't answered me when her phone buzzed. After the call, she informed me that it was Sherry who did it, and that Sean had taken her away. Sean, not only my husband but also a major sponsor for the dance troupe, had removed Sherry from the team. When Sean came to pick me up, I learned that Sherry had voluntarily injured her feet with razor blades and left the troupe. Despite her actions, I couldn't shake off the image of bloodshed. Sean's response was unexpected, showing his protective nature towards me. While driving, I asked him about Sherry, and he replied, "In today's society, I can't do much to her. I just made sure she wouldn't dance anymore." Sean's protective nature made me pause, realizing how he never let anyone hurt me since we were kids. But Sean's recent actions and hidden information made me wonder, when did he start keeping things from me? Just as I was about to ask, Sean advised me to focus on healing and not to participate in the Golden Cottonwood competition. He acknowledged my skills as a top dancer and didn't want me to risk further injury. His words struck a chord. The cuts were deep, and competing would only worsen the wounds. As we arrived home, my mom called, asking if I could come back and help Mavis prepare for the competition. As she mentioned the Golden Cottonwood competition, I realized Mavis was also participating. Sean's encounter with her the day before raised suspicions. When I asked him about Mavis and their meeting, Sean's face briefly showed a hint of unease. He admitted to meeting her, but claimed it was just a casual encounter. Despite his explanation, doubts lingered in my mind about their relationship. 1. Sean and I were each other's first loves for more than 20 years. I thought he'd love me and protect me forever. That was until my sister put blades in my ballet shoes, and my feet got seriously injured. Sean asked me, "Can't you just be a bit more forgiving? She's your sister after all." That was when I realized his heart had moved on. So when he was in a car accident and lying on his deathbed, I smiled and said safe travels. The day I sensed something off with Sean, I had a high fever. It was pouring rain at midnight when I took a taxi alone to the hospital for an emergency. While getting in I stumbled upon a message. It was from Mavis. It read "Together forever," with a photo of a cake with candles. In the top right corner of the cake photo was a hand, with a wedding band on the ring finger. It matched the one on my left hand, the custom-made set Sean had designed. Unique. My hand tingled, and after stepping back, I remembered Sean had just told me last week he was going to London for some contracts. I had just video called him that day, and everything seemed normal. When I went back to check, the message from Mavis had disappeared. Maybe she deleted it, or maybe she blocked me. Fatigue made my eyes shut automatically. Sean would be back tomorrow, and I planned to ask him about it face to face. But the next day, Someone put blades in my ballet shoes. The blades cut deep. The doctor warned me, no intense activity for 2 weeks, or the wound might get infected. Hearing this, the troop leader, who came with me, got stressed. If you're like this, what about the Golden Phoenix? Maybe skip it? The Golden Phoenix is a prestigious award, held every 3 years. I won the last one, and had already signed up for this one. And now the competition was in a month. I didn't expect this to happen. I can dance. Even though my body was still weak from last night's fever, I asked, did you fix the surveillance? Who is it? Having blades in the principal dancer's shoes and having surveillance footage erased was a major issue. The troop leader had been working on restoring the surveillance to find out who did it and report them. Before the leader could answer, her phone buzzed. She took the call, and her expression turned grim. After hanging up, she said, we found out it was Sherry. But Sean's already taken her away. Sean, not just my husband, but a major patron of the troupe. And Sherry was the understudy. We weren't that close, but it wasn't bad enough for her to sabotage me with blades. Then someone called my phone. Once I answered, I heard Sean's familiar voice, Molly, where are you? I'll come get you. I'd forgotten Sean's flight was in the morning, and it was almost evening now. What about Sherry? What did you do to her? I pressed. He clicked his tongue and replied, it's a lawful society now. What could I do? But since she hurt you, I ensured she'd never dance again. My heart skipped. When Sean came to get me, I learned that Sherry willingly tore up her own soles with the blades and quit the troupe. Just from his words, I could imagine the gruesomeness and frowned at him. Sherry was wrong, but she didn't deserve that. At a red light, Sean looked at me tenderly. Molly, you're too soft-hearted. I won't let anyone who harms you get away with it. I was stunned. Sean was like that. We'd grown up together. And even from preschool, he wouldn't allow anyone to mistreat me in the slightest. When I was bullied by a drunken punk at a party during high school, Sean flew back overnight to stand up for me and broke the guy's hand, forcing him to apologize. But then, I thought of last night's Twitter post. When did he start hiding things from me? Just as I was about to ask, Sean spoke first. Focus on healing for now. Don't bother with the Golden Phoenix. The car moved, and I pressed my lips together. Why? Your feet can't handle daily practice right now. His eyes were filled with concern. I don't want you to risk injury for one competition. Molly, you're already a top dancer. You don't need to chase another award to prove yourself. He wasn't wrong. The blades cut deep, and if I insisted on competing, the wounds would definitely open and get infected. Sean's gentle care made me fall silent, but something felt off inside. When we got home, my mom called. Her first words were, Molly, Mavis is entering a competition. If you have time, could you help her with the moves? Mavis is entering a competition too? I blurted, what competition? The Golden Phoenix, the same you won last time. The Golden Phoenix. Did you know Mavis is doing the Golden Phoenix? I asked Sean, adding, didn't she bring it up when you saw her yesterday? With my question, a flicker of discomfort flashed across Sean's face. But he was honest, Molly. I did see Mavis yesterday. Just didn't get a chance to mention it. Entering our home, I quietly stepped inside, feeling slightly absurd. Didn't get a chance, or didn't want to tell me. Seeing my silence, Sean realized I was upset, and he quickly held my hand. Ken and the others threw me a farewell party, and we happened to see Mavis being harassed. She knows Ken and the group, so she joined for dinner. That's it, Molly. Believe me. His eyes were full of earnestness. I was silent for a moment. Everyone knew Sean was my first love, but they also knew Mavis appeared during my 3 years studying abroad. Mavis was a Londoner who danced from a young age, got accepted into a city dance academy, and often worked part-time to support herself. During one of these jobs, she was harassed, and Sean heroically rescued her, which led Mavis to fall for him at first sight and boldly pursue him. Too, she showed up beside Sean like a little son, doing everything she could for him. The most extreme time was when they faced a fire explosion, and she tackled Sean to the ground, saving his life. But she failed to win him over. Sean's attention was always on me. Mavis gave her all for him, and he thanked her, but he always wanted to be with me. When I returned home, and was about to have an engagement party with Sean, Mavis got into a car accident, and her true identity was revealed. She was my younger sister who had gone missing when we were kids. Our parents felt so guilty, thinking that if they hadn't lost her, she wouldn't have suffered so much. They even asked if we could postpone our engagement to give Mavis time to recover. But Sean was the first to refuse them. He held my hand and said to my parents, "I've waited 3 years for Molly, not to see her suffer because of someone unrelated." Our engagement party went on as planned. Later, we had a grand wedding. Sean and I were like the main characters in a romance drama, with Mavis as the twist in our story. But after the twist, everything led to a happy ending. As I looked at Sean, I wondered for the first time, with Mavis so passionately in love with him, had he ever been tempted? But I chose to believe in him. Trust is something every couple must have. I got it. I smiled at Sean and said, "But as for the Golden Phoenix, I won't give up until the very last moment." After that day, I stayed home for a few days but felt unwell. When I went to the hospital for a checkup, I ran into someone, Sherry. I caught her just in time. When she saw me, her eyes were swollen, her face pale, and her voice shaky. "Molly, what are you doing here?" "Why?" I asked, staring at her. It had only been a few days, but she looked so worn out. Her eyes darted away, red with bloodshot lines. Alarming. "What's wrong?" I asked, letting go of her hand. That one question made Sherry break down, tears streaming down her face. "Molly, I'm sorry. Someone told me to put blades in your shoes." "Someone else? Who?" Her words made my whole body shiver. "Mavis. Mavis. Why would Mavis do that?" But more than that, I needed to know, did Sean know about this? Sherry looked at me and finally nodded. From her, I learned the whole backstory. 6 months ago, Sherry's mom's tumor came back. She brought her mom to a hospital in City A, which drained her savings. When she hit rock bottom, Mavis approached her, hoping she'd do a little sabotage to injure me, so I couldn't go on stage for a while. She offered a generous reward. That's when Sherry thought to put a blade in my shoe. After the incident, Sean was going to take her to the police, but when he found out Mavis was involved, he was silent for a while, then let her go with a cut on her foot. He had her mom transferred to a better hospital and paid the medical bills, on one condition: keep her mouth shut. She'd planned to take this secret to her grave, but her mom passed away an hour ago. Seeing me made her confess everything to lessen her guilt. I was a bit stunned by Sherry's confession. I went straight to Sean's company to confront him. Being Sean's wife, everyone there knew me. I didn't bother with the reception, just headed to his office. Just as I got there, I saw his assistant stepping out, about to close the door. "Shoo!" I signaled for silence, took a couple of steps forward, and overheard inside. "Sean, don't you think you're going overboard?" I recognized Ken's voice, Sean's longtime friend. He didn't sound too approving. "Helping Mavis like that, isn't it unfair to Molly?" At the mention of my name, I loosened my grip on the door handle. I heard Sean speak. "I know I'm being unfair to Molly, but her achievements in dance are already so high. Let's just think of it as her giving Mavis a chance." "Are you nuts?" Ken found it absurd. "Molly is your wife, remember? What on earth are you thinking?" Sean was quiet for a moment, then slowly said, "I get it. But these past couple of years, knowing Mavis has been through so much, it just makes me uncomfortable whenever I see her struggle." The assistant clearly heard this too. His reaction was stark. I took a deep breath. Though Mavis had reconnected with us, she chose not to live with the family, still staying on her own. When holidays came around, she'd visit our parents. Her car accident left her unable to pursue her career as a professional dancer. She settled for teaching dance at a training center. Life was tough for her. But Sean seemed to forget that the Mollys made sure she had a house and hired her a maid to make her life easier. The Mollys even bought out the training center she worked at, giving her all the stocks. And just yesterday, I agreed with Mom to help Mavis with her moves. I pushed the door open. "So you covered up her schemes with Sherry out of pity?" Sean saw me, instantly getting up from the couch. "Molly." Ken was taken aback, glancing between Sean and me, choosing to flee. "I'll just get going, won't disturb you too." He left, shutting the door behind him. "Sean, we've known each other for over 20 years. When did I ever know you to be someone who isn't satisfied with what's on his plate?" Recalling what he said to Ken, I felt both ridiculous and hurt. My hands shook without me realizing. I found it laughable. You pity Mavis, so you hide her actions from me? Sean grabbed my shoulder right away. The panic in his eyes disappeared quickly. Molly, listen to me. Sherry just had a momentary lapse. She apologized to me right after. I didn't want to stir up more trouble at home, so I decided to keep it under wraps for now. I watched him defend Mavis in silence. Enough. He stopped talking. I grabbed my bag, feeling a wave of exhaustion. I think we both need some time to cool off. Let's not see each other for a while. Molly. I pulled away as he tried to hold my hand. Don't touch me. As I turned to leave, Sean called out Molly. I looked back at him, seeing him frown helplessly. Can't you just give a little? What? I know I'm wrong, but can't you give a little? Mavis is your sister after all. He sighed. You've always been like this, never willing to budge. Remember when I wanted you to return home sooner? And now too. I knew you'd react like this, so I kept it from you this time. But Molly, did you ever think that I could get tired too? The person in front of me turned into a stranger. Since when did Sean become like this? I pressed my lips tightly together, my body shaking with anger, and left his office without saying another word. After leaving Sean, I went to the Molly's. Maybe it was the anger, but my chest and back ached until the maid opened the door, offering some relief. Molly, why do you look so pale? The maid handed me a glass of warm water. I shook my head and asked, where's Mom? Madam is watching Mavis practice dance in the studio. Since I studied dance from a young age, our home had a big room reserved as my dance studio. Is Mom watching Mavis dance in there now? When did Mavis come back? I asked the maid. The maid smiled. She moved back a week ago. Said it's more convenient to practice at home. She's preparing for a competition. A week ago. That was the day I injured my foot. I headed straight to the studio and pushed the door open. I saw Mom wiping Mavis's sweat and complimenting her. Our Mavis's talent in dance is not any less than your sister's. If only we hadn't lost you back then. You could have been in the dance troupe like your sister. Mom. I interrupted her. Mom froze for a moment, but still managed to smile. Molly, you're back. Why didn't you tell me? I decided to come back suddenly. I walked into the studio and saw Mavis in the mirror. She was wearing a simple dance outfit, slightly out of breath, her eyes innocent and similar to mine. Mom, can you step out? I need to talk to Mavis. Mom hesitated for a moment, but then left. As soon as she left, Mavis smirked. Sis, looks like you know everything. I looked directly into her eyes, not a hint of guilt in them. Why? She shrugged. Sis, if you participate in the Golden Phoenix, I don't stand a chance at winning. So sorry, but if I don't compete, are you sure you'll win? She just laughed lightly. Don't worry about it, Sean will handle it. As long as you're not competing, everything's fine. He'll even come to watch me. Sean again. What has he been doing behind my back for Mavis? I said to Mavis, don't bother calling me sis. I'm Molly. I don't have a sister like you. Something I said wiped the smile off Mavis's face. Who wants to call you my sister? Every time I do, it makes me sick. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been taken away and suffered like I did. She shouted angrily. Molly, for the 18 years I was gone, everything you had so easily, I had to fight hard for. I wasn't meant to suffer like that. If I had grown up here, maybe I would have been with Sean for 20 years. Maybe we fit better together. Mavis disappeared when she was 3. We went to the beach as a family of 4. I accidentally got swept by a wave, and Dad jumped in to save me. Mom, who was looking after Mavis, panicked and left her with the maid to find us. Mavis and the maid disappeared into the crowd. By the time Dad and the lifeguards rescued me, Mavis was gone. Surveillance wasn't advanced back then. Even with the Mollies searching the city, we found no trace of Mavis. We learned later that the maid left the city quickly and sold Mavis to another family far away. That family moved several times and eventually settled in S City. Mavis worked hard, loved dancing, and got discovered by an art school teacher, which led her back to a city's dance academy. And then she met Sean, and eventually reunited with the Mollies. I didn't expect Mavis to blame everything on me. It's pitiful, Mavis, how you rely on others for your misfortune. Hearing that, Mavis raised an eyebrow. Am I pitiful, sis? Do you know why Sean specifically went to S City for that contract? Because I told him I wanted to show him where I grew up. My mind buzzed for a second, but I could only laugh. Mavis, I will compete in the Golden Phoenix. Champion? You'll never get it even in your dreams. I turned and left the studio. Just as I closed the door, someone called. Molly, your test results came back. It's been preliminarily diagnosed as lung cancer. If possible, you should visit the hospital soon for a thorough checkup. Okay. I took a deep breath. All right. After hanging up, I felt all my strength draining away. I leaned against the wall for a couple of minutes before going downstairs. Mom immediately came up to me hesitating. Molly, I heard everything you and Mavis said. Please don't blame her, okay? I suddenly felt a chill. My heart was pounding, and I thought I probably looked pretty bad at that moment. But Mom still said, Mavis had a tough time all these years. As her family, can't you cut her some slack? Mom. Even my voice was shaky. Her hardships, her misfortunes, I didn't cause them. I have no obligation to put up with her. And just like that, I left. I brushed her hand off my arm and walked quickly out the door. I found out I had lung cancer. Fortunately, it was in the early stage, so as long as I arranged for surgery, it'd be okay. After that day, I moved out and stayed in an apartment near the dance troupe. Sean tried to see me a bunch of times, but I kept avoiding him. Until the day before the Golden Phoenix contest, he cornered me outside my building. The director told me your wounds keep opening up. Half a month without seeing Sean, and he looked skinnier. The moment he saw me, he grabbed my hand and said softly, Molly, please stop this. Do your feet mean nothing to you? Sean, why does everyone think I'm making a fuss? Recently, I've been taking medication, so I felt oddly calm, even speaking more calmly. Just because Mavis is pitiful, she's had it rough. Does that mean my smooth sailing life is a crime? Sean blinked, surprised. Molly, why would you think that? I get it. It was my fault before. But I don't want this mistake to ruin what we have. After all, we've stood together since we were kids. I gave a wry smile and asked suddenly, if Mavis had grown up with us, would you still say this? Sean didn't answer right away, but I already expected that. I'll still compete in the Golden Phoenix, no matter what you did for Mavis. I'll stand on that stage and win fair and square. You I can give her. But some things I won't back down on. Unexpectedly, Sean's grip tightened. He looked at me incredulously. Molly, do you love dancing so much that you can even give up on me? He let go, chuckling bitterly. I guess you always loved dance more than me, whether it was before or now. You've always been like this. I shook him off, a red mark on my wrist. I closed my eyes and said firmly, after the Golden Phoenix, I'll have a lawyer draft a divorce agreement. We'll talk then. Without another glance, I went upstairs with no hesitation. Sean didn't follow. I thought our next meeting would be after the Golden Phoenix, but I didn't expect it would be at the hospital. On the day of the Golden Phoenix, it rained heavily. I drove alone to the location, but just as I was nearing it, a car crashed into me head-on. I swerved sharply, but with the rain making everything slippery and the force of the crash, my car flipped over. The airbags deployed, and the windows shattered. Blood blurred my eyes as I fumbled for my phone, using voice command to call 911. I barely managed to finish the call before I blacked out. When I woke up, I was already in a hospital bed. Sean rushed over anxiously asking, Molly, how do you feel? Why didn't you tell me you were sick? He was in a suit, but it was dirty and wet, making him look a bit of a mess. Molly. His eyes were red, and his hand on the bed was shaking, looking utterly desperate. My groggy mind gradually cleared. Remembering our last unpleasant encounter, I asked hoarsely, who won the Golden Phoenix? Sean dodged the question. Don't think about that now, just rest. As soon as he avoided the question, I knew. Was it Mavis? He had been with Mavis at the contest when the accident happened. Ironic, isn't it? Sean, well done. I looked away from him, staring at the ceiling to stop tears from falling. You know my condition now. Let's get a divorce. I'll contact the lawyer tomorrow. Molly, you need someone to look after you. Let's not talk about this now. Pretending nothing happened, he tried to help me sit up. In a stronger voice, I said, I don't want to see you. If you want me around a bit longer, leave. Reluctantly, to keep me calm, Sean left the room. That night, I watched Mavis' performance in the Golden Phoenix. Her dance was better than usual, but nowhere near the silver and bronze winners. As an authoritative award, many paid attention to the Golden Phoenix. After Mavis won, questions arose online, but they soon disappeared. I dug around for a while, and finally found a post from a silver winner's friend on Facebook, questioning the fairness of the contest. I immediately shared it with the caption, "Fairness is in the heart of the beholder." I also contacted Charlie, a friend with a media company, sending him some money. Because I guest starred in a dance show last year, I gathered some followers, so within half an hour of my post, it was shared thousands of times. Soon, a Golden Phoenix scandal topic trended at No. 1. Clips of Mavis' contest were released, and the backlash grew louder. Mavis' history was unearthed too. Acts like driving away a teacher and forcing students into backbends until injury were exposed. Even her causing a classmate's fracture without apology came up. Mavis wanted this award so badly. I'd take it away now that she has it. By the next day when Sean visited, Mavis' social media was swarmed with comments. Yet Sean said nothing in her defense, only asking me, "Feeling better?" Thinking of the morning's trending stories, I handed him the draft divorce papers. Check on the property division, consult a lawyer if needed. As soon as I handed it to him, he tore it in half, tossing it in the trash. Sean sat beside me, looking exhausted, his eyes red from lack of sleep. "Molly, I never thought about divorcing you." Sean hung his head as he peeled an orange for me. "Give me a chance to make things right. At least wait until you finish the surgery." He handed me the peeled orange. "What about Mavis? What are you going to do?" I took the orange, but didn't eat it right away. Mentioning Mavis made Sean's brow furrow. "If I had known it would hurt you so much, I wouldn't have helped her in the first place. Don't worry, Molly. I'll handle the Golden Phoenix situation." I tossed the orange into the trash can. "Come see me after you've sorted everything out." He agreed without hesitation. Okay. In the following days, the Mavis situation snowballed. Even my mom Susan called to ask, "Molly, be honest with your mom. Is this Mavis thing related to you? Why are you doing this to her?" Faced with her questioning, I glanced at someone appearing outside the hospital room. I told my mom, "I'll explain after the surgery." "But Mom, I did nothing wrong." Regardless of her reaction, I hung up and smiled at the person who entered. "How does it feel to hold a golden award?" "I knew it was you." Mavis was furious, her chest heaving. "You ruined my life. Aren't you scared of karma?" Hearing her talk about karma made me smirk. "Mavis, you've been self-destructive all along." Seeing her annoyed made my mood lighter. "You." Frustrated, Mavis grabbed her bag, ready to hit me. But Sean arrived just in time to catch her hand. Sean's eyes were dark as he pulled her aside, his tall frame shielding me. "What do you think you're doing?" Mavis nearly stumbled, understanding dawning on her face. "No wonder I haven't seen you lately." "Sean, you're siding with her? Have you no conscience?" "I saved your life." Sean spoke coldly. "If not for that, I wouldn't have helped you this much. I repaid my debt. Stop bothering me." "Bother you?" Mavis laughed bitterly. "Weren't you the one complaining about Molly prioritizing her career and treating you like a second choice?" "Enough," Sean interrupted. "I was never into you. The rest was your own fantasy. I've always loved only one person, Molly." In the past, I might have been moved by Sean's words. But everything changed after all that happened. "But she's dying. She's got lung cancer." "Sean, I'm the only one who'll be there for you." Mavis pleaded. "We used to get along so well, right? Help with the Golden Phoenix thing. Don't let them withdraw my award." I barely won it over her. I grasped Sean's hand, frowning slightly and speaking softly. "Sean, don't forget what you promised me." Then I corrected Mavis. "It's early-stage lung cancer. I'm having surgery this Sunday, and I'll be around for a long time." Calling him so affectionately was a first in a while. Sean seemed momentarily dazed, then squeezed my hand. "I'll handle it." Turning back to Mavis, "Helping you is my biggest mistake. I need to correct all of them, starting with the Golden Phoenix." With her pleading fruitless, Mavis shrieked, then glared at me. "It's all your fault. I want you to die now." Pulling a fruit knife from her bag, she lunged at me. Seeing this, Sean unhesitatingly shielded me. The knife pierced his shoulder. Through gritted pain, Sean told me, "Molly, don't be scared. Even though I was prepared, seeing Sean hurt tugged at my heart. Sean quickly stood and restrained Mavis, her painful scream echoing. People outside heard the commotion and rushed in, quickly calling for help. Hospital staff acted fast. After Mavis was taken away by the police, Sean's wound was bandaged. Before heading out for questioning, he made sure to stop by and tell me. I called out to him, "Next month's our anniversary. Don't forget." Sean's face lit up with surprise. "I won't." He probably thought I was starting to forgive him. With Mavis gone, the Golden Phoenix was retracted, and she remained in custody. Sean was always ruthless with those he didn't care about. After my parents learned about Mavis, they stopped siding with her. Though Mom gently asked me, Mavis was punished. She can't stay in holding forever. She's still family. So after my surgery, I visited the detention center. Mavis had lost weight over the month, appearing dull and lifeless without her glamorous facade. When she saw me, she got upset. "What do you want?" I sat calmly. "To see your downfall." "Why not? Without you, I wouldn't be in this mess. You've got the nerve to show up. You've always blamed others for your mistakes and coveted things not yours." I chuckled. "You deserve this." Instead of angry, Mavis narrowed her eyes with mockery. "Does Sean know this side of yours? He hates women like you. Even now she still thought of him?" I sighed, mentioning Sean. "That's only true for you. Sean loves me no matter how I am. You're just something he uses to spice things up when he's bored. So it's normal for him to make demands of you. You aren't acting like you think winning over him makes you better than me, are you? Oh, by the way, your gold medal got revoked, and that dance academy? Seems like 90% of the students dropped out. Dad told me that you won't be allowed back home again because of your bad behavior. Mavis, it's like you're left with nothing. That's so sad." After being hit with my words, Mavis' face turned pale with anger. "Molly." She almost lost it. "Molly, do you think that car hitting you was really an accident? Do you think Sean knows about it?" I couldn't care less about her curse, just shrugged. "If that makes you feel better, go on. But I'm heading up to the villa at Cloudspire Mountain with Sean for our 3rd anniversary next weekend. And I'm sure we'll celebrate our 30th. Grow old together until death do us part. As for you, go on and be a rat in the gutter, always jealous and envying me." Before I left, I gave her a mocking eyebrow raise. Outside the detention center, Sean was waiting for me in the car. He was there to make peace. Since they're family, even if my parents have given up on her, Sean couldn't turn his back completely. "I have something to give you." As soon as I got in the car, Sean pulled out a small velvet box, opened it, and inside was at least a 5-carat sparkling diamond ring. He slipped it onto my finger, gazing intently at my hand, and said softly, "Molly, thank you for forgiving me." I just smiled, not answering. "Remember, be on time for our anniversary." He promised. I'll be on time. The weather on the day of the anniversary wasn't great. Clouds filled the sky, already looking like it was going to rain. In just a moment, it started pouring rain. I arrived early at the villa at Cloudspire Mountain. The villa, located at the foot of Cloudspire Mountain, has both hot springs and nature surroundings, perfect for a getaway. Sean bought it for these reasons. Everywhere in the villa were Freud roses flown in from Ecuador, all arranged by Sean. I sat on the sofa, glancing every now and then at the clock on the wall. 5:26 p.m. Sean should be on his way. I called him to remind. "Where are you?" "It's raining, drive slowly." His voice had a smile in it. "Almost there. I have a surprise for you." Hang on. He didn't finish speaking when I heard a sharp screeching sound, and then several collisions. 5:28 p.m. I glanced at the clock again, then asked Sean, "What happened?" After asking, I got up and left the villa. When I drove out to the road leading to the villa, I saw Sean's SUV flipped over, badly damaged, and an overturned Mercedes beside it. I recognized the Mercedes. It was the gift Dad gave to Mavis when she first came home. Mavis was unconscious, covered in blood and stuck in the driver's seat. I walked over to the SUV and saw Sean, also stuck in the driver's seat, bleeding heavily, and in worse condition because a piece of glass had pierced his neck. But he was still conscious. "Sean." I smiled at him, asking, "How does it feel to be outsmarted?" He understood then, looking at me in shock, his voice weak. "Molly, it's you I never imagined." she would really hit you. I calmly replied, just like you hadn't thought that car back, then would flip me over, instead of just causing a minor accident to keep me from the Golden Phoenix Award. I nearly died. And that's when you woke up, Sean. Our bond over 20 years. How could you be so heartless? My voice was calm, but a tear fell from my eye. Sean gasped for air, looking straight at me, crying too. Molly, I'm sorry. Due to the blood loss, his face turned paler. His breath grew heavier. I wiped away my tear and told him, Sean, don't say sorry. For one of you to die, and the other to be imprisoned is the best apology. I managed a little smile. Take care. I dialed emergency services. That's when Sean managed to say it again. I'm sorry. I looked at him, but his eyes had already shut. The rain poured down, drowning out his voice. Sean died before the ambulance arrived. Mavis was charged with intentional homicide and was taken back into custody right after leaving the hospital. After I finished arranging Sean's funeral, his lawyer and assistant approached me, handing over an envelope. Sean transferred 15% of the company's shares to you while he was alive, Molly. I couldn't help pausing. Was this Sean's surprise? Taking a deep breath, I switched topics. How long will Mavis be sentenced for? The lawyer replied, she confessed to intentional murder and causing a serious accident. She's facing a prison term of over 10 years. I nodded. After they left, I placed a rose at the gravestone, looked toward the distant mountains, then walked away. Goodbye, Sean. The end.